Hi, everyone, and welcome to Everything About Wealth, the podcast. This podcast is focused on wealth building, and I am your host, Denny Troncoso. This is episode number 14. If you were with us on our last podcast, episode 13, Desi and I went in depth on the rule of 72. This rule allows you to know how fast your money doubles when investing with compound interest investments. We also talk about differences of compound and simple interest, so make sure to listen to that call. In this episode, Desi and I interview CPA and financial coach Evie Reyes. Evie shares tips on real estate investments, debt elimination, and so much more. It was a really fun call. It's packed with tips. As always, be ready to take notes. Now, if you don't already, please follow us on Instagram at Denny Troncoso or at Desi Troncoso.
So today we have Evie Reyes, and Evie is a CPA with over 9 years of experience in accounting. She expanded her knowledge into financial literacy with an interest to pay off her own debts and build more cash flow. She had over $68,000 in debt with student loans and a car loan, which we all can relate to.
Definitely.
Before becoming debt-free within 2 years by paying off all her debt. She started her financial coaching business a year ago, where now she helps people manage their money. She has her own blog, wealthfinancialcoaching.com, and an Instagram page at Evie Reyes, where she gives free tips and advice on personal finance and just living a better life. If you're not following her now on Instagram or been to her website, we strongly suggest you do at the end of the show. With that, let's introduce Evie Reyes.
Evie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on the call, Evie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I think you're going to be able to provide a lot of great information for our listeners. We see you're posting a lot on Instagram, great financial tools, and I think that's going to be helpful to everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So tell us about what your business and what your mission is.
So what I do is I help busy moms feel confident about managing their money. And this is so that they spend less time worrying about their finances and spending more time doing the things that they love to do. As busy moms, we always have a lot going on. So financial coaching kind of takes away from that stress.
Huh. That sounds like a lot of moms could probably use that.
Yeah, no, I really love that niche as well, where you're helping women with their financial literacy, really helping them learn how to manage their funds. I think that's very important moving forward and getting to know more about the things that we can do, especially as a mom as well, for our kids and passing that on. So I love that you're doing that. It's a great mission.
Thank you.
And that kind of goes into my next question. Why did you choose that as your mission?
So I feel like as a woman, we could all benefit by equipping ourselves with financial knowledge. And it doesn't matter if you're a mother that stays at home or depending on your marital status, we could all bring stuff into the table. Like, for example, if you're a stay-at-home mom, there are other ways to contribute to your family finances other than monetary. And by having the financial literacy, that is just one step and benefit that you could bring in.
That sounds pretty good. There's a lot of single moms out there, and I've read a couple of books. One of them is Own It by Sally Krawcheck. And she started a company that is really helping not only mom, but really more women. And that women have a lot of buying power. They have so much financial control, and that I think the story of the book is that they're not using their full potential with that. So by you doing what you're doing, it's just exciting that you're able to kind of get people to live out their best life, as that saying goes right now.
Yeah. and I feel like, especially with social media, it has allowed a lot of not just moms, but females in general to kind of come together and help each other out. And that is just something that feels so powerful and empowering. So it's like, no matter what you need help with, whether it is financial, physically, emotionally, there's always other females to help around. So
I can
just
completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. I do see that a lot more, and I even think that is almost transitioning. I'm glad to see women that are supporting women, right, instead of the opposite, where we've seen that happen too. But like you said, social media is a great way that you're able to outreach. And that's why I think I've enjoyed your Instagram page, because you have a lot of information out there as well. And your posts give little tips and strategies here and there on how people can save money or increase cash flow. So it's very beneficial.
Yes. And it's like, it's not one shoe fits all. Because what I like to, for example, if you have different values and goals. So financial coaching would be tailored around that. We all have different goals that we want to achieve. And that is just about getting that refocus, gain clarity of your money, and then we plan it out. So it's just that great benefit of, financial literacy and getting ourselves out there.
Do you have, because that's a great point, do you have a recommendation? Because I know a lot of times people even ask us, they're looking for what their goal is or what to do. How do you recommend, because I know you do coaching for people, how do you go about helping people find what their goal is and how to do a strategy around that?
We start off, it would be like just get to know you get to know me, and the whole process. And where we get like most of the benefit will be to understand the why. Why is it that the woman wants to become debt free? Why are you reaching those goals? And that kind of gives you clarity and prioritizing where you want to be. And really the why is the big thing. And that gives more clarity where your money is going and where you want it to go.
Great point.
Yeah, no, I think everything should start with the why. Because if the why is strong enough, they say that the how is not it's going to be easy. It'll come up. You'll find the way.
Yeah, you will make it happen one way or another. It's just seeing that big goal, and then you take the smaller steps to reach that goal.
So Evie, what led you into this industry? What was the catalyst? What got you in there?
Well, it kind of just happened. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in business administration, and I noticed that when I was looking for jobs, it was kind of broad. And then that brought me into my first accounting job. And that's when I met other CPAs, and they had master's degree in accountancy. So I'm like, you know what? Let me go that route. So that kind of gave me a direction of where I wanted to go. And then I moved here to Alabama, and I was having a really hard time finding a job. And I'm like, you know what? How about I actually create my own business and do something that I love, which is helping women, navigate their money and just find ways to become debt free. So this is where the whole idea of becoming a financial coach came about. And I just feel like the whole 9-to-5 corporate job was just very limited to me. And personal finance is just something that I've always been passionate about. And I get to help other females feel empowered and take control of their money.
It's exciting to hear the story of, I couldn't find what I wanted, looking for jobs. So I decided that I would start my own business and go for it. And you see a lot of people that they would like to do it, but to see that you actually took the steps and started moving in that direction. I love hearing those stories, the entrepreneurship. It's basically what the hero's journey is, what they say, right? Like kind of going for it, the challenge. We're going to take all this risk, and I'm going to, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then on the other side, if you do the work, sometimes it really works out well. And I see that it's worked out for you pretty well. So that's exciting. Yeah,
it wasn't an easy process. Like even now I'm still in the learning curve. But it has been so worth it, because now I know that this is just like a side business, let's say, that I could rely on and take it with me no matter where I go. And even like as a stay-at-home mom or, busy moms, you have different options to go out there and do something that you love to do. Even if you have the 9-to-5, that doesn't mean you have to leave the 9-to-5 life right away, but you have different options to consider. It's just taking a leap of faith.
Yeah, I love that point, actually, because I know a lot of times we think that in order for us to start a business, we have to quit another job. But I think it's very smart in the beginning that, you can continue doing your 9 to 5. And then on the side, as you're saying, start developing your own business and then let it thrive, help it grow. And then from there, once it's bigger and you can focus on it, is when you can decide whether that's something for you or not. But I think a lot of times people just think, how am I going to be able to do it? But I love to see Evie, because Evie's a mom, she's working, and then she's also still starting her own business. So it just shows other people that if you really, really want to do something, there are ways to work around it and be able to achieve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you brought up a good point that you don't really have to know everything that you want to achieve. It's just kind of getting an idea and just putting your feet out there. Start little by little and learn as you go. We always build up. You don't need to set up a whole website or anything like go hard. You could just do a PDF and work from there and start getting clients and networking if that is something that they want to reach out to and do.
Now, something that also I wanted to mention that also stands out is by you going out and taking the leap of faith, is not only you doing it for you, but you're also, there's a subset of the population, which it's minorities. And I think when they see you talking about finances and getting all that sent over, I think it has a different effect as well. And I don't know, have you seen that as a minority?
Yes, I have. And just recently I shared on my Instagram page a little story about my dad. He came from the Dominican Republic like over 20 years ago, and all he had was $20 in his pocket. He tells me the story all the time, and it's just like a motivation for me that we don't have to be stuck in a certain situation if we don't want to. And even the barrier of him not speaking English, that didn't limit him to not going out and build his own business. And, just narrowing down what he wanted to achieve and finding ways, not limitations.
That's a great quote there. Finding ways, not limitations.
Yeah, we're gonna write that. We're gonna use that one maybe.
That's a good one.
And I want to just point out as well that there's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, but a lot of the stuff I see you posting, even though it's your target, the people that you're really focused on are moms and women. It's applicable to men because it's finances. So everybody's dealing with it. Everybody's working through it every day. So I think everybody can benefit from what you're doing.
Like the story of her father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, so some questions I would like to start kind of getting into is for us to learn. I know a lot of people are probably tuning in because they want to learn more about how to improve their finances and build wealth. So
they want to hear the secrets.
Yes, the secrets. So I always like to start with, what is a common mistake people do with their finances to find out more about what we may be doing wrong in the beginning and kind of fix that as we go or to avoid it?
The biggest mistake that I've noticed people having would be not having control of their money. So let's say once you receive a paycheck, you pay all the bills, and then you're asking yourself, where did my money go? I hear that quite a bit with my clients. And part of having control of your money is being aware of the money that is coming in and the money that is coming out. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, you want to make financial decisions based on your needs and wants, and what are you trying to achieve, rather than just going down and paying your credit card every month but not knowing exactly what you're paying. So it's just having that clarity of your money, like every dollar accounting for everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know, and that kind of comes into with, and I'm sure you probably touch on that too when you meet, is a big thing that Denny and I try to do is a monthly budget to understand where our money is coming in from, but also where is it going out to?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I know, like you'll look, you say, wait, what happened what happened last month?
How much money did we spend?
Yeah.
What were we eating out? So sometimes, it's easier now, I think, because the credit card, you just go in and you swipe it, right? So it's so easy to just spend these days, but you really need to track it, like you're saying, to understand and control yourself, I think, whenever it comes to spending unnecessarily,
yes.
But also understanding, what do you have coming in? And if it's not enough, I think it's a great time to start analyzing, what else can I do to increase my money as well? And that may be like a side business or whatever else you may need to do.
I think that's a great point that Desi made, because sometimes I think the tracking and the budgeting and then the tracking of what you spend is so important. I couldn't agree more with that. Now, what I will also say is, like Desi said, is you can't just cut your expenses to zero, you know?
Oh, no.
You know, and then we hear a lot of, you know, especially, nothing against accountants, Evie, but right, a lot of companies do that. They want to, sometimes accountants, they want to, no, let's cut. But we also need to think about, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, about marketing and growing income and revenue. And maybe you need to get a side gig, like what Evie started, or you need to, you know, increase your education to get a higher paying job, or maybe buy some real estate investments. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But again, it definitely starts with tracking. And even it was mentioned in The Millionaire Next Door, that one of the biggest things you need to do, have a goal, is every month you need to track your income and your expenses. And I would say, I would admit it, for me at the beginning it was hard, because, you know, I didn't like tracking. I didn't like doing that. That's, you know, I don't like doing, but if you don't do it, then next thing you know, you're spending $800 eating out, and you're like, wait a minute. I wanted to eat out more. Every week you're like, you know what, just one more dinner, you know, it doesn't matter, it's all good, you know.
That's a true story. He was like coming to me one day, he's like, oh, I want to eat out. I said, I think you eat out quite a bit, you know, we do. And then he's like, oh no. I'm like, let's look at the budget. And then when he looked at it, it was like, oh, okay, we do our eating.
Yeah. What is it, they say, a come to Jesus moment, basically. Come to Jesus moment. Then he spent $800, or, you know, we spend $800 eating out. We're like, okay, no, we need to get this under control and control. And it's an emotional thing. I think the money is something that it's logical, but it's more emotional, because you feel like you work hard. You're like, I want to eat out. I want to give myself an excuse.
And I think also, like, keeping up with almost like the Jonases, or like keeping up with the hype, like just now Disney Plus. I wonder how many people have signed up for Disney Plus, but that they already have, let's say, Netflix and Hulu. So, like, you know, at that point, it looks like, let's say, $7 a month for Disney. Oh, yeah, that's nothing. But then when you start adding each month the other subscriptions, let's say you're spending on average $45 a month. What is that? Like $540 a year. So that's like, you know, that's a big mark. Maybe it's time to cut back. Like, do I really need 5 subscriptions? And and that's really saying, you know, what do you value and what is important to you?
Yeah, that's a great point. I even like, because sometimes you're just looking at, oh, it's just $7 or it's only $45 a month. But a good way to also look at it is on an annual basis, because then you're really looking like, oh, it's $540 a year. And I think that's a different perspective as well, to looking on an annual basis.
And that could go either to pay off your debt or to build up an emergency fund or go on vacation.
Yes.
Or plan for the next investment. I mean, some people, they're like, I don't have any money, right, to do anything, but then they have a $45 a month subscription, or they're having Starbucks daily, right? The $5 a day Starbucks, and you know what, $25 a week or more. And then you got your $100 a month. You're like, wait a minute. If you at least cut it in half, maybe you can't completely go to zero, right? Because we can't go to the extreme. But cut it in half and take that other money and put it toward your investing or paying off your debt, like you said.
Yeah, I feel like it's all about balance, because we could all enjoy, you know, becoming debt-free journey. And you don't have to cut back everything. It's just limitation. Maybe this month you will limit going to Starbucks, and then you would put that money into your emergency fund, into your investments account, or the down payment for your next home. So depending on where you want it to go. But you're at that point, you're already telling your money where to go, rather than, you know, paying the bills and it just magically disappears, in a sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that kind of goes into one of the next questions I have too. What are some ways people can save money? And that was one. One way to start looking at your budget and on an annual basis what you're doing. But do you have any other ways that people can save money?
Yes. I am a big fan of making lists to save money. So it could be anything from like meal prepping, because if you already know what meals you're going to make that week, then you go to the grocery store and just buy the ingredients that you need rather than buying on the go. Like, if something looks good, oh, let me buy that because it's on sale, or, just because you have a craving for it. Rather, if you stick to the list, you will be limited to how much you will be spending. And another thing, as we're going into Black Friday, it would be good for you to create a list of what you want to buy and who you want to give it to, as well as the price. If you have a budget, that would kind of, you could add or subtract in order to stay within that. So you won't go overboard and go into debt, let's say, during the holiday season. So that's one great way to save money. If you want to secure the future for your family, you value your family. Maybe you think, like, for Danny, going out so much, maybe he's like, let me limit it and just go out twice a month or something like that. And you would save money there. Another way, just living below your means. Just because we have, let's say, $100, you don't have to spend the whole $100. You can just say, spend the $25 and save the $75 for real estate, or, for your savings in general. It's just finding creative ways that you could benefit from.
Yeah, and that's a great list. And a few of those actually spoke to me. And I know one of them is the meal prepping is important. Denny and I just had this conversation actually, because we did our budget and we're looking at how much we spent on groceries, and we were trying to figure out, like, how did we spend that much in groceries? What were we buying? And Denny was like, we just need to make a list and stick to it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, groceries is actually one of the hardest things to track, just because sometimes we actually go to the grocery store. Let's say you go to the grocery store, you buy all these ingredients, and you come home and you're hungry. So you actually order a pizza instead of like meal prepping. Okay. I find that such a, it happens quite often, but it's okay to have like a cheat meal a day or order something in, but then you're preparing for the next 5 days, let's say, that you don't have to worry about having to buy food. And it is 3 meals. So if we were to spend $15 every meal, that will add up as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And that's something that we're trying to do as well right now, just to understand, where is it we're spending, and just trying to see what's going on with the groceries.
Yeah, no, and to track it. And something else that we've learned to use as well, because sometimes we're like, okay, we're spending so much on groceries, but we look at trying to find other benchmarks of people, of what they're spending. So I was like, we're spending this $650 a month on groceries. It seems like a lot of money. And so we looked at what is the average person in the United States they spend on groceries. And we saw that we're within the range. For a couple. So we said, okay, so we're within the range of where we need to be. And if we can, save a little bit, great, but at least we're in the range. And and I like that.
Yeah. And the other thing I like that Evie mentioned as well was, and you also have this posted on your Instagram that I love, and Denny and I have also talked about this, is eating out less, but also because, we love to hang out with friends, and it seems that we have a culture where meeting up with friends has to be at a restaurant, or you have to be spending money to do it. But in reality, what we've been doing with our friends lately is inviting them over to eat at the house. Instead of going to a restaurant. And the good thing about that is, if you're a drinker, you have unlimited wine.
And cheaper too.
Yeah, it's cheaper, because you buy the bottle, not buy the glass. And then it's just fun, I think, you don't have to worry about a time constraint, right? Because restaurants are so busy. They're trying to get, people in and out. Versus at the house, you can just try to sit there and relax for 4 hours or however long you want, and really just enjoy each other's time and talk to each other. And we also enjoy where people, the cooking for someone else, and then someone else brings something else, like a potluck. It feels very family oriented almost.
Yeah, it's more personal.
And you also get to control how much you're willing to spend on the party.
Yes.
Because whatever you're spending to host a party might be what you and Denny spend just going for one meal at a restaurant.
Great point. It is.
So you mentioned I have meal prepping, list for gifts on Black Friday, and something I wanted to mention about the gift giving. And these are some of the things also I talk about: discipline and not getting caught up in all the hype. because there's some families, and I've seen quotes on on way people handle it, but that they have so many cousins and so many nieces and so many nephews, and that they want to give a gift to everyone, or they feel obligated to do it. And I've seen quotes of people that they just reach out to the family. I've seen like write a letter or something and said, look, this year, my goal is to spend time with everyone instead of provide gifts. And I'm gonna stay away from that. Is there any recommendations on that for people that are having those challenges or get caught up in that?
With big families. Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
That is a great idea. If gifting is not within your budget, then there is other ways to spend time with the family, and you don't really have to give them anything. Or let's say you just give them a letter that you don't have to. Or another way, if they want to limit it, maybe write down how many people are in your family, let's say family members and kids, and how much are you willing to spend on each one of them. Mm-hmm. If $10 is good, then just find gifts that you could give them for that price, and also prioritize who really needs a gift. For the most part, it's most of the kids, and you don't need to go overboard and buy anything like crazy expensive. Kids tend to appreciate even the smaller things, and quality time. I mean, that is priceless. So they would definitely enjoy that. Just spend, maybe rent out a movie and, movie night, get some popcorn and just get ready to have some fun.
Yeah, because it just drives me nuts when I see people that they don't have enough money for Christmas gifts. They want to spend $2,000 and then they're in debt, and then they're in this cycle like that they feel obligated. They have to spend so much money. And
yeah, I think she made a great point too, in which we don't realize sometimes, is what she mentioned with kids, where kids actually, they don't think of the monetary, right? They think of just receiving something small and they're happy. And the reason it made me think of that is I remember for my nephew, I sent him a birthday card, and I put in, I think it was like $10 or $11 because I give him like based on his age. And then he, basically called, and I got him a card that was like a Transformers card. And he actually loved the Transformers card. Then he loved the card more than he liked the money. He said, "Oh, this is such a cool card. You didn't have to send the money. I like the card. It's so cool." And that just kind of, it goes to her point that sometimes, they are satisfied with the smallest things, that you don't always have to get them these expensive gifts for them to be happy or appreciate something.
And another thing we have to remember is that in Christmas time, kids tend to receive a lot of different gifts from different family members. So they won't, use the toy for too long. So there's no need to really go overboard and spend so much money on them. Yeah. And maybe, take them out and to the park and get ice cream. They might appreciate that even more. It's just like the simplest things that we could do.
We can go into the expense side and probably speak about it for hours. Now, I think a lot of people, I hope they got a lot of tips there, but I know that they want to hear about what can people do to increase their income. And please give us some of those secrets, Evie.
So to increase their income, it all depends on what they like to do. Again, like as I mentioned before, their values and their goals. So depending on what you like to do, you can find a part-time job or a side hustle doing something that is enjoyable to you, and you will get some money that way. You could also look around your house, things that you no longer need, especially now that we're in season. Summertime, you could get rid of all the summer stuff if you no longer need it and get extra money selling. You could also, if you own a house, if you have a spare room, maybe you could list it out on Airbnb and get extra money that way.
Those are all good ones. And I think the Airbnb, that's so popular right now. And
it is, yes.
And we traveled, we did some traveling earlier this year, and we stayed in every place we stayed pretty much was Airbnb. And I spoke to a lot of people, different hosts, and they said they stay 90% occupied. And I'm not talking about, we weren't in just big cities like New York and Miami.
Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, we're talking about Mobile, Alabama. We're talking about, Spokane, Washington, like places you probably wouldn't think of, and they're full. So that's definitely a great opportunity. And I think you can rent rooms out anywhere from $50 to $100 a night.
Yeah, and you could get the whole house for the same price for booking a hotel, which is very tiny space. Some of them even have a pool, so that's great.
Yeah, and the stove is great too, in case you want to cook breakfast. And we've actually liked staying in Airbnbs compared with hotels, depending on where we're going to be, just because, sometimes the stays that we do are pretty lengthy. And so we're able to save money. So we're not eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We can have a brunch at the house and then save just the dinner. So we save money there while we're traveling. And
also like a home. It's like a home away from home.
Yes.
Rather than luggage in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other good feeling that we got from it as well. It's just, it kind of felt like you were staying in a friend's house, and it was a lot more comfortable.
Yes,
basically,
definitely.
for sure. And I know Airbnb, is a way that a lot more people are starting to use as additional income. I actually recently was at a meeting with women, and someone was talking about Airbnb. And Airbnb can even be, like you're saying, someone renting out just a room and then or doing their house. And I noticed some people are starting to do a little bit more of that with their real estate.
I just met somebody that they did the craziest thing with Airbnb. They were, of course, this was California.
What does that mean? I thought it was
I start the story that way. So it's like, wait a minute, where is this going? So these people, they were in California, and then they had in their backyard, they had like, it was like a futon kind of that was hanging off the floor, and it basically a hammock in the backyard. And then they had it covered around like you were, you're a queen, and this is kind of like your temple. I forgot the name that they called it, but it was sold out all the time. Because people wanted to do that. And so I thought that was so crazy. But I mean, I wouldn't want to stay in someone's backyard, but I think people crave different experiences.
Definitely.
Have a theme is a tip on that one.
Now, I know we're talking about real estate, and I know that some of a lot of people that listen in on are doing real estate with our podcast, but I know you've owned real estate as well, and are using it as an additional income as well on top of your financial coaching business. Can you tell us a little bit more about like what investments you own and what your goals are?
Yes. I have 4 rental properties, and one of them is the one that I currently live in. Once I became debt-free back in 2015, my husband and I made it a goal to purchase our first home. And for that one, we bought a townhouse. We gave 50% down, and we got a conventional loan for 15 years with the goal to pay it completely off within 5 years.
Wow.
Then the second property, it was just 2 doors down from that first one. And we did like the same deal. It was conventional loan for 15 years and paid off within 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Then the house that we currently live in, this is the one where we're currently holding the mortgage. And that's because we're here and, there's no rush to pay it off. And for this one, we used a different structure, and we did conventional and longer term for 30 years. And then just the most recent one was a rental property that we purchased here in Alabama. And it was a really good deal. And for that one, we paid cash because it was fairly cheap. And just when we were almost done building the construction, we actually found a tenant. And going back to Airbnb, what his business does is that he signs a 5-year lease with us. So it's like secure for 5 years. And with the ability that he's able to post it on Airbnb as a business for his side. So I found that very interesting because I was not aware of that until now.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard of that personally about, I've heard where people were doing apartment units before, but I haven't heard where someone was doing a contract directly with you. So
I was actually going to say that I have heard about it, and we were talking to a friend of ours, Sergey, and he was talking about a great person to use this is actually real estate agents. Because real estate agents are looking for, some of them may be working part-time. They want to be in the business. They want to work for themselves, but they need additional income. And they already understand the real estate business. So that could be a good fit to do that type of business. I forgot the structure exactly how he had it, but it was a deal he had here in Florida that he was working on.
So your structure, you said it's for the lease. The lease is for 5 years. What type of deposit? What type of clauses do you put in to kind of secure yourself? With repairs or anything like that?
we signed the lease almost like a regular landlord-tenant lease.
Okay.
And then the kicker about it is that since he is doing Airbnb, he does all the maintenance. So that is one of the clauses on our lease.
Okay.
We are not responsible for anything that goes wrong from now to the 5 years.
That's good.
So we just get monthly income like regular. And then it is up to him to make it as a business. And then we put that clause that he is able to interact with Airbnb and market the property.
Did you require any type of security deposit from him by any chance?
It was just the regular 1 month security deposit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And why would you do such a longer lease? What was the goal with that?
My husband is in the military, so we're constantly moving. And for the 2 properties that we have in Florida, when we have a tenant moving out, we have to travel over there and actually, do the paperwork to get the place up and running for the new tenant. And by having a longer lease, it's just feels secure, that we don't have to really manage the property that much. We just have that one tenant that is responsible for the next 5 years. And we are just working one person rather than different ones. And also the fact that he is taking care of all the repairments, that's a plus for us.
Got it. And then he would also take care of things like if the AC goes down, like major repairs, or would you step in if it's something like really expensive like that?
We will probably step in if anything like that. But for the most part, he will take care of all repairs. Like if it's just an AC is not working, he will take care of that. And before we turned the house to him, we did we did a new roof. And, we took care of all the major parts so that it's not something that will fall on him later on.
Okay, fair enough. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. The spare room with Airbnb. Can you talk about, you mentioned this was a good deal, and you mentioned it was because of the price, it was cash. So was it just that the price made it a good deal, or was it the location? What would you say is a good deal through your eyes?
It was different factors. So, for example, the house, it was a low price, and then it didn't need that much repairs. Like we could have made it up and running for $3,000, but we decided to actually put in more money so we don't have to deal with repairs going forward. Also, the community is really safe, and it's a lot of homeowners there that take care of the land. It is close to Shopping Spree, and it is in the up-and-coming area here in Montgomery, Alabama. So it will be very marketable whether we move or, stay here. We will be finding someone to rent it out, and it's close to the major hospital as well.
Fair enough. So it was a mix of things and a good deal. So sometimes people ask, how do I find a good investment? What are some of the criteria for a good investment? Yeah. And it's everybody has a different criteria because they have different goals. But some of the major one, of course, if you can get the great price.
Yeah, but then and the return on investment, that was another one.
The return on investment, which is really, I'd say, one of the top ones, right? Because if you get the price low enough, then the return on investment could be high, really high.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And what was the other ones? The low repairs and then the great location. Like you're saying, it's in an up-and-coming area of Montgomery, so you're going to get. I love it, people talk. They have different goals, right? So if they could invest in an area that maybe a working class neighborhood, or maybe even they call them war zones, some of the more tougher areas of town where it has a lot of high cash flow, some of those properties. The only thing is you're not going to get a lot of appreciation. However, if you're looking at it on a property like maybe that's in an up-and-coming area, you may get a lot of rental growth that will, over time, because the area continues to grow and the desirability of that property continues to grow. So.
I have a question. The cash flow that you're using from your rentals, are you using the cash flow to pay them off, to pay off the actual mortgage, or are you using it to pay? Did you use it to pay down any debt, or are you using it to live off of? Just curious what you're doing with the cash flow.
For the cash flow for the first home, once it was completely paid off, that money we would use it for the second home, and it was like a domino effect. Then the cash flow for the first 2 homes, we're using it for the third one. So we always have a bucket of just the investment, a savings account, and that's what we use for repairs and also for any future projects or investments that we look into.
Okay, so your goal is to have them paid off, and then from there you just have the passive cash flow once they're paid off.
Correct. And then the bigger goal for us is to have 10 rental properties by the time we retire.
Okay.
So we're almost halfway there.
I was going to say, I was like, you already have 4. You're almost there. That's very good.
Yeah. And then not only that, but 10 rental properties paid off. That's right.
Yes.
Right. So that's going to be awesome.
The first property is always the hardest one, which is what I tell my clients. But then once you have like everything set out, it's the domino effect. It would be easier for you to buy that second, third, and fourth house if that's, what you decide to do.
Got it.
And it sounds like you and your husband are personally managing all the properties. Is that correct?
Correct. So for our rental properties, we actually use a landlord management system online, and it helps us from A to Z as becoming a landlord. So it would be from marketing the rental property to getting the tenant in, signing the lease, the contracts, putting any costs, collecting the money, and also keeping track of the maintenance work that needs to be done throughout the months or throughout the year as needed.
Wow. So it basically does all that for you. You really are just having to go online and get that information.
So do you just collect the check? Like, does it buy the property for you too, or what?
That's the next step.
They need to include that in their product, right? I think the price would probably significantly go up.
Everything is in one place, so you could have multi properties, and it's all there. You would, as far as collecting late fees, it will automatically charge, so you don't have to keep track of the tenant, and it will send you emails as to, this payment is late, follow up. So keep you accountable in a sense, and you will know exactly who hasn't paid and who needs, to be checked.
What is the name of the site?
It's called Avail. Avail.
Avail.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it either. Very cool.
And for, I know, for us, because we understand the importance of having a reserve for any repairs that may come up in the future, because as we all know, houses need maintenance, they need repairs because things go bad that need to be replaced. How are you budgeting the repair amount that someone should save to the side in order for them to have those funds ready basically in the future?
If you don't rely on the passive income to, like, for your day-to-day expenses, then it's good for you to set aside a saving or checking account that is just for the rental properties. And you will use this income whenever there's any major repairs or even the smallest things. You will already have the money set aside for that. So it would be anything rental property related.
Got it. So anyone that's using their income for rental property. So we have rental properties and we use property management. We actually put a budget aside out of every dollar that comes in for capital expenses. Now, for other people that are not using the income, they can just put all their cash flow in a certain account, like you're saying. And then when something pops up, like the AC or a roof eventually, because your particular goal is to hold these forever, sounds like. So long term. So that's something you need to definitely plan on, where you can take care of the property, make sure all the capital expenses are done.
Yeah, and then you also don't want to dig into your own money, like your own personal paycheck, if you could already have that money set aside. It would just be one stress that you don't have to deal with when the time comes in. Most homes will need, like a roof repair in a few years or anything major getting broken.
Now, why do you think this is? I like your strategy. I like what you do with your rental properties. You're buying them in a very smart way. What we do with apartment buildings and getting the cash from budgeting, I think is a very conservative way to invest. But I see a lot of people out there that they're doing deals, and they run into that situation where they do have to go into their bank, into their checking account. Because why is that happening, Evie? In your opinion, why do you think people make that mistake, let's say, or that decision?
I think it's because they're not projecting what could go wrong with the property. And, budgeting or putting the money set aside monthly. And that's pretty much the biggest item, is just putting the money aside, whether it is from your personal account or from the rental properties, the investment. Just having a net before time. rather than waiting for the last minute when something comes up and then you have no other account to go into than your personal account. So at that point, that's the route you have to take.
Yeah. You're making $100 a month and then your AC goes out and it costs $5,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you going to do now? That's 5,000. That's 5 years of your cash flow. That's gone. If all you were planning on is you weren't putting anything aside, you just have this $100. So I think that's very well explained, and people need to look at that before they buy rental properties, because they could get into some big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely something to consider when you're looking for a rental property is the rate of return and how much money can you actually save. Like once you pay down that mortgage every month, how much money are you left with, and what would be your total for the year?
Mm-hmm. And there's a formula. I would say close to 40 to 50% of the income that comes from properties needs to be going back into expenses. And we're not talking about the mortgage. I'm talking about just, repairs, management, capital improvement, landscaping, taxes, insurance.
Yeah.
So people don't think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that should all be factored when calculating the ROI, because that would be like the true value that you're getting.
Exactly.
Great. Now, I want to go over, and this is not all real estate related. It's kind of a general question for anyone that's going into any type of goal or overcoming an obstacle in their life. What are some financial fears people have, and how can someone overcome them?
A big financial fear that I've noticed would be if you're working a 9-to-5 job, being laid off. If you're only relying on that job for a paycheck or, a medical condition, how will you provide for your family? So it is just that fear of, will my family survive, or how would they pay for things if I'm no longer here? And one good way of doing it is by having 3 to 6 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. Kind of just prepare for the future. You might not need it now, but you just never know. And it is just, you won't be adding stress, not only to yourself, but also to your family members.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that's a big fear among a lot of people that I talk to. And I think that's why I've seen a big influx of people who are interested in adding real estate to their portfolio or adding it to their investments, because in case they lose their job, they have income from another source that's still producing, that can help them get by until they are able to find something else or focus on something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think the only thing I would add there is I think the emergency fund is definitely a have to. It's like no brainer. Can we kind of stamp it at the top of the sheet of all the tips. And then the next one is, if you're really concerned about your family not being okay if you're gone, you need to get life insurance. You need to plan for that. And I would look at from life insurance as a sense of income protection, where for so many years you want to make sure your family has a certain amount of income coming in, and that's what you need to get. Don't get $1 million if they don't need $1 million. Get what you can afford, but to make sure your family is protected there.
Yeah, and then most employers offer life insurance, so it's just something that you can look at. And sometimes it's like 4 pennies a month, let's say, from your paycheck. It's very minimal. And then you, what you can do is see what it's covering. And then if you need additional coverage, then you go into a third party and get that additional coverage. But I would say to start with your employer and really know the benefits that you're getting from there.
Yeah. So you're saying that people should read their summary of benefits from their employers when they get them?
Yes. And take advantage of everything, especially if it's free.
Oh my God. That is an awesome tip. I wonder, why wouldn't people take advantage of that?
Yeah, it's just like the 401k. It's free money. Why not take advantage of that?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it just boggles my mind, my mind. Yeah. So there's sarcasm in there, but it's true. If you're listening, take a look at your summary of benefits. You may be leaving money on the table. Don't leave anything on the table. Take advantage of it, because that's why it's there.
Yep. And if you don't understand it, have someone that does understand finance that you can either hire or ask, because maybe a friend or a family member to explain those to you as well.
If you're a woman, call Evie.
Yes. I am available.
Awesome. So, Are there any myths about personal finance that you like to debunk on the call?
Yes. One of the myths that I hear will be carry a balance on your credit card to help you build credit. And even my dad used to say that. And
dad.
Throw that one out the window.
I had to tell him, I'm like, yeah, that's not, completely right. So one way to know is contact your credit provider and see when the credit card company actually reports to the credit bureau. Since credit report is based on credit utilization, you only need to carry a balance on the day that it is reported to the credit bureau and then set a automatic payment for the next day. You don't need to carry a balance any longer than that. So for example, if the credit card company reports to the credit bureau on the 15th, then set an automatic payment to be paid off on the 16th. So you will bill credit and you would also pay off all your credit card on time and not carry your balance over.
Great. I like that tip. And it's something that actually I used. And I know when I remember I was probably 23 or 24 when we met or got together. I didn't have any credit cards either because I was like, I don't want to go into debt. I've seen people go into debt. If I can't pay cash for it, I don't want anything to do with it. And then Denny, came over. He was like, yeah, but you need to build credit. And I said, listen, I don't want anything to do with the credit card. I've seen the damage it can be, do.
Yeah,
and he said,
it's evil. It's a devil.
Yeah. I wanted to say that, but, I didn't want to go there. But it basically is Diablo, right?
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that Denny, and that's kind of the tip that what you're saying is what he advised me to do. He's like, get a credit card, but just pay it off every month. And that will allow you to build credit. And with that, because I think we get scared, and I know I was there in one point where it's like, oh, credit cards are bad. We've had people where you have to pay off everything to own credit cards, but you need credit in order for you to do things. If you're wanting to buy a car, if you're wanting to buy a house, unless you have the cash to really buy those things, right? Yes. But that helps me build my credit to be able to buy a home within the next 2 years that I was able to do because I had that credit that I was able to build the credit card. So I love that point and that tip that you gave. It definitely is something that helped me in my past as well.
Yeah, no, I think paying your credit card off every month is, why
smart
not? Yeah, no, it's smart. Why do you need to pay interest to a company? I hate paying interest. I get,
same here.
I get angry. I don't like paying interest. I don't. Because you're putting money in people's pocket is what you're doing. And you're not getting a service for it right now. You might have gotten a benefit from it maybe years ago where you borrowed the money to buy something, but you're not getting any benefit of it. At least you're watching Netflix or drinking a Starbucks. There's a little bit of a rush, right? There's a sugar rush. But with that, you're paying interest. That's money coming straight out of your pocket into the bank's pocket. And I don't think that's a smart decision.
Yeah. And I would like to share a story of when I was 17 years old. That's when I didn't have any credit or credit cards. And it was a time that if you receive a credit card application, you have been pre-approved. At that point, I thought it was so cool, to get a card, a plastic that said my name. So I kept seeing a lot of offers and I applied to literally over 10 credit cards at that point, and I didn't have any credit. Wow. And then when all of them were coming back home, they were like, oh, we need to review your case or you have not been approved. And I was so confused. I was like, they're the ones asking me, to apply for the credit card because I have been pre-approved. At that point, I really didn't know how credit cards work or how credit reports work. And that's when I told my dad about it. And he kind of giggled. He was like, that is not how that works out. And at that point, he told me all those credit cards that you applied for over 10, they're actually going to be on your credit report for over 2 years. So that's really, that was the turning point of, okay, I need to, be smarter with my money because I was just 17 and, getting started. So that didn't really put me in the right path. But I think I just learned it was a trial and error. So it's just something that I will never forget. But it's all gone now, so that's good.
And that's a little trial and a little error. The worst is the people that take 20 years bad credit and then, they got
or they spend the $10,000. At least you didn't get there, Evie. Because I know when you're that young, it's like free money.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like, no,
And then you feel good. You're like, oh, I'm going to buy me something else. You know?
Yeah, and you get a free shirt if you sign up. It's just like the little things.
Free shirt.
Yes.
And then the shirt probably says, I'm in debt. Like, that's what you get it. Awesome.
Oh my God. So I know we have got a lot of tips and advice from you. And one of the next questions I want to ask is, how can someone improve their financial literacy to be as knowledgeable as you are, Evie?
So, of course, Google is a powerful thing. You could pretty much get everything online. There's a million templates. But if you really want to improve your finances, specialized for your situation, then you can consider working with a financial coach such as myself, and that would kind of guide you in the right direction. And the way I see it, it would be a shortcut to getting your finances in order. And then I would like to share some of the benefits that you get from working with a personal finance coach. Mm-hmm. And you get clarity of where your money is going. As we discussed earlier, you receive customized plan tailored around your values and your financial goals. It's not, tailored for everybody. It's just tailored for you. What is important for you right now, let's say 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And then you will receive guidance in prioritizing in which order to do things in order to achieve the goals. What is the best plan and course of action? And the best part is that you get the accountability, because sometimes we get a budget, we fill everything out, but it is really the execution that matters, putting things into practice.
Yes, that's what I was waiting for. I was like, the accountability is the biggest
is everything
impact to have. Yeah, because, and it happens to all of us, sometimes life just passes by. You're like, oh my gosh, I really need to do this. And then something else comes up and you completely forget to do it. But I think Denny is probably about to preach about it, because he's always telling me about accountability partner. And I think that's something that you get definitely with a financial coach. And like you said, it provides a shortcut because of all that time you have to spend to go and Google, which you can do. You can go and Google and find out ways that you can increase or budget or whatever you need to do. But working with someone that may have the knowledge, I think, does cut out a lot of that time and the guidance as well.
Yes. And I would like to add that I'm actually part of a group called Coach Connections. It is a lot of different coaches nationwide. So let's say if I don't have the answer, there's always somebody that will have the answer for you. So it's, a networking of working with a financial coach. You will get an answer and the best course of action.
That's very cool. And what I was going to preach on is, you mentioned the accountability. And there's, if you haven't read this book, it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. You need to read, you need to read it, but listeners, make sure to read it. And accountability is proven to increase your results on tasks. Like you said, if people are not doing things, you may skip it. You may not go to the gym, but if you have a workout buddy, you're going to go to the gym because you're not going to let that person down. If you're talking to Evie and she says, this week, you really shouldn't eat out more than, you made a goal that you're not going to eat out more than twice. If you go on Friday when you talk to Evie and you tell her you ate 5 times, you want
to eat 5 times, but out.
You eat out 5 times. You're gonna feel bad because you're telling this to someone, right? And that's the power of accountability. So find somebody that can help you. I think Evie has some great services that she could offer. But if it's not Evie, make sure to find someone.
Yeah, family or friend, anybody that will keep you accountable. That's all that matters.
All right. So for people to achieve their financial goals, what are they doing? Those people that are actually making it happen, they're executing. What are they doing that other people aren't? The ones that are not achieving their goals.
They are setting specific goals, and not just general. It is very specific and challenging as well, because we could set goals. Let's say I want to be a millionaire, but how will you get there? It's just that implementation, and what steps can you take this year and next year to get you there. They are also passionate about their goals. They know exactly what they want to achieve, or at least they have an idea to get them in the right direction. Also avoid multitasking. Sometimes we set different goals. Maybe just focus on one of them. It could be like debt repayment or savings, or let's say building the net for your down payment. So just focus on one task at a time and then go from there. And of course, be consistent. You can't expect change if you just do something today and not do it anymore tomorrow or the next day. You have to be consistent. And this is why the accountability is so good, because that would be, someone who will hold you accountable for those actions that you said you're going to reach this goal by next year. We're going to make it happen.
Amen. I'm not going to add anything there. That's very well explained.
Yeah. We would just be piggybacking. We don't need to.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't need that anymore. I'll just be kind of like hitting the horse over the head.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks so much. We do want to do a little fun event where we get to know a little bit more about you, because I know sometimes we're so busy getting the information, but not learning more about who we have on the call, and that's always more important.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get to know a little bit more about Evie, what has helped you get you where you are, and is there something that you wish you would have known before you started out?
I would say technology played a huge role, because when I was in college and I didn't know, for example, how to pay off my student loans, I would just Google what is the best way to pay it off, or what is the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized. So that has helped me out a lot. Also reading personal finance books and just asking around.
Yeah.
People have, trial and error. And something that my dad always told me is like, if you can learn from somebody else's experience, why would you make that same mistake?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so
that's great advice from your dad. Hey,
I take that one to heart.
Words of wisdom there. There we go. And what has been your biggest failure, and what do you learn from it?
I wouldn't exactly call it a failure, or more like a setback. And it was the story that I mentioned earlier when I was 17 years old and I applied for over 10 credit cards and got approved for none. So and, that just gave me like the light bulb, like, okay, you need to know exactly what you're doing. And that really gave me that push that I needed to reach financial literacy and really educate myself and what's out there and making the best financial decisions going forward.
I would say that is definitely something to learn from. Now you have the story to tell your kids and everyone else. That's awesome. Who has been the most influential person in your life?
I would say my dad, just because of his story of him being an immigrant, coming to the United States with no money and seeing everything as a challenge, not really an obstacle, and still going forward, creating his own business and not speaking English very well as a challenge, or a reason for why he can't do what he was set out to, and just keep going no matter what.
Awesome.
Great story.
Great story, definitely. So, Evie, what do you do for fun when you're not teaching people about finances and being a financial wizard? What do you do?
I am either changing diapers or playing with, the Paw Patrols. I have a 3-year-old son and a 2-month-old daughter. So pretty much my fun time consists of making them happy, taking them to the park or just spending quality time with them, watching a movie, or, just enjoying the little things and watching them grow.
Huh. How important are those little things more than anything?
Oh, yes. They go so fast.
Exactly. See, this is exactly what's thinking. Like, we don't have kids yet, but we have our, friends that are like family to us, and we watch them grow. The other day, someone's birthday is turning 1, or another baby's walking. I'm like, oh my God, they're growing so fast.
Oh, yes. Those milestones are something.
Yeah. And if listeners want to learn more, are there any books, courses, or anything else that you would recommend?
Well, I invite them to go to my website, www.wealthfinancialcoaching.com, and schedule a free 15-minute call with me. And there you can ask me any questions that they want about their money. And then during this time, they get to learn a little bit more about me. I get to learn about them and their financial goals. And, if they're interested in coaching, then we'll go from there and just get to know each other. It's really just a fun, let's chat time.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of that. A free 15-minute call. That's going to be, I think that will benefit anyone. As Denny and I always say, if you can get one nugget out of any time you spend with someone or at an event, do it, because that could change the rest of your life.
Oh, yes. And there's so many free resources out there as well.
And I'm talking about specifically the financial life. So,
so many podcasts such as this one. for investing.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to send you the check after the call for that one. So how can listeners contact you? Would that be your site, the best way?
They could either go there if they want to learn more about the coaching process, or if they want to just get everyday savings and financial advice, then they could follow me on social media on Instagram, and it is at Evie Reyes _.
At Evie Reyes _. All right. Yes. Well, with that, Evie, thank you so much for being on the call. It's been jam-packed with information. Yes. We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you in the future as you continue.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Awesome.
Take
care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Evie Reyes and have added quite a few tools to your investment toolbox. I sure did. To learn more about real estate investing or how to be a capital partner, visit our website at www.everythingaboutwealth.com. If you like the show, please make sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite app. This helps more people to find the show. And of course, it's the holiday season, so if you feel like giving back, we would appreciate it. Now, again, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next show. Take care and bye-bye.